World War III might be closer than you think. You've probably heard of the Russia-Ukraine conflict and the devastating impact it has had all over the world. Although the US has an important role in the conflict with military aid, weaponry and advice, it has not sent any ground troops, largely because of its historically strained relationship with Russia. But what if? What if the US fought beside Ukraine? What we don't know is what would happen if the US decides to side with Ukraine and go up against Russia when it attacks. There are many possibilities about how this could go, but most of them ending up igniting World War III. The US and Russia are two of the most powerful continents, and that's no surprise. States of America is a dominant global economic and military powerhouse with a strong cultural influence reflected in music, movies and television. The country, a constitution-based federal republic with 50 states, has a large economy and is technologically powerful. The military recently received a long-needed boost with President Trump's 2019 budget proposal, which included more than $686 billion in military spending. In 2022, the United States spent more on defense than the next 9 countries combined, accounting for nearly 40% of military expenditures by countries around the world. The current US military certainly has the firepower capacity to fight and win a major war, but that would probably be globally sourced, drawing on interests in Europe, the Middle East and the Asia-Pacific region. The US often plays a leading role in international organizations, including the United Nations, NATO, and the World Bank. Their firearms and military are some of the leading reasons that nobody even tries to mess with America. I mean, who wants to piss off the United States? The US certainly also likes asserting its power from time to time, just to make sure everyone always remembers who's in charge. Then along comes the intimidating Russia. Russia has made significant armament progress in recent years, with the recapitalization of missile and rocket artillery units, with the introduction of the 9K-720 Iskander-M system replacing the 120-kilometer range Tochka-U. The BM-30 Smerch multiple rocket launcher system has been modernized with the Tornado S system, while the BM-21 Grad system has been upgraded with the Tornado G system. The ground forces have also improved their mobile, layered air defense capabilities and electronic warfare capabilities. The airborne forces, the VDV, is a key component of Russia's high readiness capability, with the addition of air assault brigades in the early 2010s. Air portable equipment has seen modernization too, with BMD-4M airborne combat vehicles and BTR MDM APCs being introduced. Force experimentation has been conducted to develop heliborne air assault capability. Russia's Navy has undergone significant transformation since 2008, with the introduction of the 3M14 caliber long-range precision land attack cruise missile LACM on multiple surface and submarine platforms. The Russian Air Force has replaced the bulk of its single-role fighters with multi-role fighter ground attack types, modernizing rotary wing aviation and upgrading its air-to-air missile inventory. The Navy's tempo of operations and assertiveness has increased in recent years, especially since 2014. However, the pace and breadth of naval modernization has not matched declared ambitions, and Russia's blue water naval capabilities remain limited and largely reliant on legacy Soviet platforms. These two countries, side by side, sound very powerful and intimidating. Most experts agree it's game over for everyone if these two go to war with each other. However, the Ukraine-Russia conflict is becoming harder and harder to ignore with every single day that passes. The hypothetical question still remains unanswered. What would happen if the US and Russia fought directly against one another? Since America didn't want Russia to invade Ukraine, they have been providing vital support and backbone for Ukraine. But assume for a minute that the US discarded political concerns and decided to openly fight alongside Ukraine against Russia. One important aspect of the US fighting beside Ukraine would be the manpower the US can provide for Ukraine. And by manpower, I mean the military capabilities that the US has. Ukraine is a small state and doesn't have enough ground or air power to fight off Russia forever. They might be able to increase the number of casualties from the war on Russia's side, but not without losing a lot of their own people, as they have already. And by no means can they actually win an out-and-out war against Russia. But if we talk about the US combining its resources, manpower and air forces with Ukraine, it paints a completely different picture. Russia might be a global power, but fighting against the US is going to challenge Russia on a scale where it hasn't been challenged before. Russia might even retreat, or if they end up fighting, they'll have a lot of casualties on their hands, along with probably a lost war. If we look at it from a political point of view, having to risk two major global powers fighting directly against each other doesn't really sound like a great idea. This could lead to the international community trying to find a peaceful resolution. Such threatening circumstances will surely push them towards trying to find a midway between this fight, instead of letting it escalate to a point where it becomes a full-blown war and ends up destroying everything around it. It's also important to keep the civilian population safe during the war, which has proved very difficult so far. If the US joins hands with Ukraine, it could also significantly reduce the number of civilians that might lose their lives to a war. Who wants to wipe out the human population at the cost of conquering a unitary state? Another reason the US might not directly involve itself in the conflict could be the potential onset of World War III. Because if the US fights with Russia, it might break out into a nuclear war. Nuclear war means missiles, rocket launchers, chemical weapons, atom bombs, and worse. This is not only going to cause damage to the two global powers, but the surrounding countries and civilians will become collateral damage, as will the rest of the world. It will be like Hiroshima and Nagasaki all over again, only worse. Not just two specified areas, but the whole planet Earth. World War III wouldn't even be documented in any history books, because it would be the end of the world as we know it. I think it's safe to say that when war breaks out between two major countries of immense power, they don't just fight each other, they come with a lot of damage that accompanies the war. We're not talking about hundreds or even thousands of people, we're talking millions and billions of people, half the planet, or even all of it being wiped out by the war. The casualties and collateral damage are one thing. Can you imagine the destruction it will cause? Whole cities in ruins, towns that were filled with children's laughter and grandparents' stories becoming ghost towns, buildings falling to their knees and people hiding inside their homes trying to protect their families from the fate that awaits them. Many people will have to move from their homes because of large populations of humans being displaced. They would become refugees and separated from their families. It would also cause chaos for economic scales because the economy would become completely unstable. Every currency would fluctuate on scales beyond measure, leaving everything in chaos. If this escalates to becoming a nuclear war, it's going to be another level to The Hills Have Eyes. The environment is going to be completely destroyed and so many areas will become uninhabitable. The radioactive material is going to cause genetic abnormalities in that area for decades. The people already living there are going to die, and their next generations, if they happen after decades, are going to be children with physical abnormalities that no doctor could cure. This war might be different from previous wars also because of the progression in technology, but this could also be the very reason that it could cause way more damage than any other war did before now. There are kill machines among war machinery, which means these machines have been programmed to kill. Military technologies these days are almost undefeatable, and if such machines are brought out in war, it's going to wreak enough havoc to last many lifetimes. Another alarming aspect of World War III, if it breaks out, is a cyber war. Cyber warfare involves the use of technology by a nation state or international organization to attack and destroy the opposing nation's information networks and computers. These attacks can be caused by computer viruses or DDoS attacks, denial of service. The increasing frequency of state-sponsored attacks suggests the potential for a cyber World War III. Leading militaries are developing cyber strategies to alter the enemy's command and control systems, early warning systems, logistics and transportations. What if Russia starts thinking about a large-scale cyber attack? And worst of all, rebuilding is going to take a lifetime, because we're not just rebuilding a city or a town, we're talking rebuilding half the planet. The amount of sheer disfigurement this planet would go through to face World War III is crazy. It takes years to rebuild a little town. Imagine the amount of time it's going to take when you have so much to rebuild you can't even pinpoint where to start. Can you ever imagine what it would be like walking on a field that used to be green, now just full of radioactive material? Wouldn't it be better if Russia and Ukraine found a peaceful solution without having a war break out between them? What are your thoughts about this? Do you think the world will end after this war? Or are there still going to be people left? Tell us what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel.